Everyone that buys your time is selling your time 100 times more over. They're making real profit out of outcomes. But everybody's taught to sell time. A lot of people go and do things by default because they're in fight or flight. How much they're getting paid an hour. This is not scalable and you cannot get rich this way and you will be trapped selling time forever. And that's what the school system teaches people.
What would you say to people where they are stuck? What do they do?
What should they do? There's a couple of answers to this. First of all, I want to be in control of my own destiny. If you work for someone else, it's easy at the beginning, but gets harder over time because your bosses change, the directive change. You can work somewhere for 5 years and then they just let you go. Doesn't matter how much effort you've made, how good you were for 5 years, they'll let you go. And then you have nothing. Especially if you don't own equity where you're working. You own nothing. Whereas if you work for yourself, it is harder at the beginning only because it's a learning curve. And that learning curve makes you feel alive, by the way. That helps you grow as a human. And it gets easier over time. So all the businesses I have built, within 5 years, I've got someone else running them. But no one can fire me. So I spent 5 years building something up, now someone else can run it. Whereas if I work for someone else, I work 5 years and then they just get rid of me. I have no ownership. So how can it possibly be true, and most people do think this, that it's easier to work for someone else than work for yourself? Because again, you get trapped in that job, you end up being owned by that company and they can cut you whenever they want. That's not easy. And working for someone also, by the way, is not easy. So when someone says to me, oh, it's so hard being an entrepreneur, I'm like, okay, well then give up all your equity, go work for someone else. If you want to do a survey, go ask anybody that's owned their own business for more than a year. They just give up all their equity and go work for someone else because it's so much easier working for someone else. They won't do it. No one will. So how can it be true? It's just a lie.
But I think that working for someone else might not be easier. But I think taking the first step to work for yourself is really hard. You know, like I'm the founder of High Performance, right? I'm the co-founder of a production business with 300 staff. I've done it myself. I've also been employed. And I've got nieces and nephews who are about to go to university age. And like you, I question if university serves them. But I don't know what their first step is to do this themselves. I think that's the hardest part. Like, what's the first thing you do? Because the job is already there. You can go and get a job.
Yeah. First of all, don't take easy choices when you're young.
Right.
If you take easy choices when you're young, you'll have a harder life later. So when you're young, take the hard choices. First of all, your costs are lower in life. Your expectations of when I go on holiday, I want to stay in a villa. I want a nice pool. I've got all these expectations now as I've got older. Plus I've got responsibilities. Yeah. When you're young, you don't have any of this. So take all this risk when you're younger. It's so much easier.
What's a hard choice when you're young and an easy choice?
Well, I think the easy choice is, get a salary in people's minds, get a salary instantly, a pay packet, guaranteed amount of money each month. People see that as the easy choice. Or go to university for that matter. Most people don't know what they actually want to do when they grow up. So they go to university because they want to get away from their parents. They want an independent life, but they don't actually know what they want, so they go to university. But they waste 4 years, the most precious 4 years of their life, and in England get into debt, not in Scotland, but in England get into a serious amount of debt. And for what? At the end of it, they come out with a qualification that actually often pigeonholes them into a particular job. So my idea is like, hey, everyone should take a year off. Go explore the world if you can. Go travel, backpack, go see different things. Go get experiences in different businesses. Go find out who you really are, not what the school's told you you're going to be, or what your parents have told you you're going to be, or what your friends think you are. Go find out who you really are. But everybody's taught to sell time, except the ones that know that selling time is not scalable. Everyone that buys your time is selling your time 100 times more over. They're making real profit out of outcomes. But you are trained to sell time. As a person, 90% of your listeners will be thinking 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week. How much they're getting paid an hour. This is not scalable and you cannot get rich this way and you will be trapped selling time forever. And that's what the school system teaches people.
But there is something about having a depth of knowledge in a topic, though, that there has to be room for expertise or learning.
Well, it depends on what it is. Learning a craft, sure, but Elon Musk knew shit about space. He went and learned it. Elon Musk knew shit about cards. He went and learned it. I don't want to put Elon Musk down as the best entrepreneur in the world, but I mean certainly from a learning point of view, like every business I've ever started, I didn't know it until I started it. So I started a gardening company. I knew nothing about it, and I learned on the job. And then I brought people in that knew it, right? And then I started a creative agency. I didn't know anything about it. I brought people in that did, and then I learned the business as I went on. In fact, going into something without knowing it made every business I did different.
So 2025 is well underway, and I bet a lot of you like me have already started to make plans on how this can be the very best year yet. And for me, making it a great year revolves around some investment, but actually investing in myself physically and mentally. So the physical investment has been a sauna that I've just had installed at home, and already I'm absolutely loving it. But the mental investment is making sure that I take time to go traveling with my kids, Flo and Seb and Harriet, my wife, on those kind of memory-making holidays that last a lifetime. But obviously both of those goals center around needing finance. The good news is, though, that's where our new partner, XTB, comes in. They're dedicated to empowering you on your investment journey, and that's regardless of whether your horizon is short or long term. You can maybe buy stocks and ETFs commission-free. You can invest passively with investment plans, open an ISA account, earn up to 4.75% interest on uninvested funds, and loads more. And the good news is it's so easy using their app. So just download the XTB app today or click the link in the description below to start making your money work for you in 2025.
So how do you start a business with no money? Well, maybe my when I was younger, my ambition wasn't as big as it is now. I didn't want to build a tech platform like I have done now. When I was younger, I just wanted to pay the bills. So I built a service company. So my first business was a gardening business. And what I said was, I'll take care of your garden. They said yes. Then I asked them for a deposit. Now that 50% deposit paid all my costs. And then when I'd done the work and collected the final payment, the other 50% was my profit. This fundamental structure on how you can start a business with no money, no one's been taught it. And so people instantly, they'll say, oh, I don't have money to start a business. So I'm like, well, what business do you want to start? Well, they won't even let their mind go there because they don't think they've got money to start a business. So that's level one. Level two is I don't have time. People say, I don't have time. I'm like, you have deliberately told yourself you don't have time. What you mean is you don't have a purpose. Because if you really care about something or someone, you find time. Time is just a made-up concept as well, as far as like we have 7 days a week and Saturday and Sundays, chill day. Most people think, oh, I don't work on Sundays. I work on Sundays. I work any day I have to work to make my mission happen. And I don't think twice about it. And people are like, work-life balance, aren't you working all the time? No, I don't feel like I'm working at all. The opposite. I'm working all the time, but I don't feel like I'm working at all in the context of what people think work is. So that's another level. How do people remove the excuse of time? Well, first of all, tell people you haven't got much time on this planet. You better use it meaningfully. So when you're wasting time watching Netflix or listening to content that doesn't bring you any value and wasting time, most people are wasting time. That's why they've got no time. If they had a purpose, they'd find time. So find a purpose. Second step in my pyramid of why people don't do it is they don't have a purpose. And if they can discover their purpose, they will find the time.
Can we talk about that?
Sure.
Because I feel in a not dissimilar position to you, where I'm very much pro get out and do the work, get out and set up businesses, off you go. But people will say to me, yeah, but you knew what you wanted to do. And I feel very lucky that I've found my passion. What would you say to people where they are stuck? And therefore, actually, I think of my nephew, Joseph, going to university is almost the answer because he hasn't found the thing that he loves. What do they do?
What should they do? There's a couple of answers to this. First of all, a lot of people go and do things by default because they're in fight or flight.
Yeah.
Okay, fight or flight status is basically where they've got peer pressure or financial pressure. The part of the brain that allows them to be creative and figure out what their purpose could be cannot be activated when you're in fight or flight. So when you can't make ends meet, your electricity might get cut off tonight. If you can't feed your family next week because you're going to run out of money, there's no time to be creative. You just have to survive. And you go out and hunt and you don't think twice, right? So when you go out and hunt and you don't think twice, you can't be creative. You can't figure out what you're meant to do because you're so busy in fear that there's going to be a war you can't affect, a bill you can't pay. Your brain is so activated by fear, it's not allowing your creative part of your brain to engage. So you're never going to find out who you really are, what you really want, because it's not alive, that part of your brain. So the first thing to do is come out of fight or flight. And a combination of pretend you've got money for a minute. Pretend money's not a problem. Just try to get into that state for at least 10 minutes because you might be able to dive into that creative part of your brain and come up with the very solution that's going to make sure you're not broke anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's one part, fight or flight. I think the other thing about it is for a lot of people who are not sure what to do, the best thing to do is expose yourself to as many things as possible to find out what you love and what you don't love. So I traveled and I went and did things in different businesses to find out what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy. So I discovered quite young, luckily, that I quite like sales. I love that idea of knocking on someone's door and saying, can I be your gardener? And they say yes. And that's instant revenue you've created from nothing. So I think that you then double down on what you're good at. Again, the school system will tell you to double down on what you're not good at. So if you're not good at history, they're like, well, you've got to study history more. Let me get you in a tutor to teach you history more. But if you don't like that thing, then why double down on it? So I think we got to go, for me anyway, like what I tell people is try to figure out what your hobby is and make a living out of it. You know, a lot of people think they can't make a living out of it. But your daughter, did you say? Was it your daughter just then in your text?
It was my daughter that texted me.
Yeah, so she sounds like she's creative. You know, there's money to be made in creativity. And we're told you can't make money being a painter. Of course you can. Today more than ever. You go live on TikTok, you'll make money being a painter right now. And I don't work for TikTok, but I just love these tools that are there for young people. They've got a lot of difficulty with things like buying a house, and it's hard for them.
Yeah.
But on the other side, wow, these tools now, like it's the great equalizer. You know, like you don't know if you know the concept of the great equalizer, but the social media is a great equalizer. I can go live on TikTok now. I have a bigger channel than Channel 4. You know, and for those listening overseas, it's a small TV channel in the UK. You know, like, I have more reach than a TV channel right now. So that's incredible. And it cost me nothing. I just go live on social media. I had 417,000 people on my live last week. 417,000 people. And it cost me nothing to do it.
And it cost them nothing to watch it. I think that's the other really important thing. We look at things in a very binary way. Social media is bad for children. Playing computer games is a waste of time for children. I remember Richard Osman sitting in that chair and he said, well, how are your kids playing computer games? Yeah. Are they engaging? Are they being creative? Are they using a headphone and a microphone to talk to other kids? Are they aware of how the game's been programmed and created? Do they know the improvements of this version of the game from the one that was released 2 years ago? He said, that's brilliant. And it's a bit like, oh, kids shouldn't be on social media. What are they consuming? How are they consuming it? Like everything that you would ever want to know, I think, is there.
Totally.
And it's about educating people not to not go on it, but to not go on the stuff that's not good for them.
Well, I think it's like anything. I interviewed, I've suddenly forgotten his name. It'll come to me in a minute. Oh, Tony Fadell. He invented the iPod, right? And then he was part, of course, therefore, inventor of the iPhone.
Yeah.
And Steve Jobs famously deleted him off his phone on stage when he introduced the iPhone. So there was all controversy around Steve Jobs taking the glory for inventing this product. Anyway, one of the things he said that really stuck with me in the interview was, I was saying the iPhone's bad. All these people looking at their phones, looking down at their phones. You know, does he feel bad that he created this product that's so addictive? And he said, no, the iPhone is a fridge. What food you decide to put in that fridge is up to you. You see, I believe in social media for social good. You've got to have the algorithms that are feeding you help, knowledge, support, guidance. You are in charge of your algorithm. And people will throw this thing, well, in China, they've made it so that kids only get to watch education content, and in America, they just watch whatever they want. Well, that's up to you.